Hello and welcome to CANNAMAntv. In this interview, I speak with founder and editor-at-large of Fat Nugs Magazine, Dustin Hoxworth. In this interview, we discuss Dustin's background and his first experiences with cannabis, what led to the creation of Fat Nugs Magazine, what's needed to enhance cannabis dialogue, the current cannabis landscape internationally, and the importance of cannabis for bringing people together. Make sure to like and subscribe, and join me on Patreon to help to build a stronger cannabis media platform. Now then, let's talk cannabis. Dustin.
How you doing, brother? Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, man. I just sent you an email. I was like, shit, I can't find the link. And then, of course, I found the link instantly. So give me 1 second, dude. Hold on.
No worries.
Connor, how you been, brother?
Not bad, man. How you doing?
Fucking, it's been a crazy whirlwind, dude. And I'm trying to slow it down a little bit so I don't fucking hurt myself. Man, it's I'm not kidding. My health is suffering right now. I'm
In what way?
I'm not sleeping well. I'm stressed. I just noticed that, I started to notice some things because I normally am very, very active.
Right.
And I'm outside and I climb and I hike and I go to the gym on a regular basis, all of that stuff. And the past, really about 2 or 3 weeks before I went to MJ Biz, what was that, back in November, I guess. Jesus Christ, it's almost 3 or 4 months ago. Holy shit.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. I haven't stopped, and I didn't go to I stopped going to the gym. I haven't stopped working. And it was because I lost, our editor in chief at Fat Nugs. So I had to make up for all of that, not being there anymore. And trying to get that first print edition out, honestly, just fucking killed me. And then developing business through Three Good Buds, and it snowballed. And I stopped going to the gym. I stopped eating, as good as I normally do. I stopped being active and going outside and walking and climbing. And it caught up with me last week when I was in Phoenix, and I felt like shit. My blood pressure was up. And I was like, okay, when I get back home, I need to readjust some things here and get back to what I normally do, because I can't sustain this kind of shit.
Sorry to hear that, man, but I'll be honest, Dustin, you're fucking smashing it, man. Like, honestly, Three Good Buds, fucking Fat Nugs is like crazy, man. It's like you're smashing it, man. And inevitably, I suppose, health is the first thing to fucking show signs of that.
Yeah, there's got to be, and thank you, I appreciate it, dude. And you've been a part of it, so, and you're about to be a part of the next one we release in a couple of days, which is really dope.
Looking forward to it.
And you have a big fat double page spread, which is cool. I love it. Anyway, and every time I show somebody, for the first time, they're like, "Oh, and you have a comic?" I'm like, yeah. CANNAMAN is dope. Anyway, so it's again, thank you. I definitely appreciate that. It has been something I wasn't expecting. I think when you and I first talked early last year, almost a year ago at this point, it was just sort of like a thing that might happen. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this could happen. And then all of a sudden it did. And just been pushing ever since, and haven't stopped. So yeah, I would expect, because of the amount of work that's been going into this thing, for hopefully someone to give a shit about it, which is nice. And for it to grow. I didn't expect for it to be like this. And so it's been dragging. Like, first of all, I was pulling. I was like, come on, damn it, let's go. I was always pulling it along. And now it's at times dragging me, and definitely I got to pump the brakes every once in a while.
Yeah. I think, honestly, let's say, when I was thinking about that before when we last spoke, and it's like, you had like 4 covers. There wasn't there wasn't a website, there wasn't anything like that, man, and it's fucking epic, man. Like honestly, like, even when, honestly, it really is. And that's why I'll save a lot of this for the interview, Dustin, but I'm telling you, man, there's 2 or 3 publications which are present in the UK, and you're doing something that's again, I'll save all this for the interview, but it's unique what you're doing, man. You've got a really eclectic fucking variety of individuals that are coming together. It's cool as fuck. And let's say, it's I'm a firm believer in, manifestation and magic's the real thing, and it's all about visualization power. And you're like this. There was somebody that commented on one of your posts on LinkedIn who'd referred to you as a wizard, and I swear to God, man, I fucking burst out laughing because I was like, that is exactly true. That's true, man. That's like, it sounds so silly, and I don't know how you feel about these things, but you rewind back to real alchemists, people that were really engaged with like chemical formulation and developing the psyche, all these different things. These are just describing things that are available to us now, and some people have to really find the information. Some people are able to intuitively process it. You're one of those guys. You're one of those guys that just happens based in. And also, I listen to some of your music. Yeah, your music.
Okay.
Again, man. Like I
Oh God. Oh God.
I really wish I was aware of how creative you were with music at the beginning. Like truly, man. Like when you were like, yeah, I'm quite creative, and I was looking at what you've been doing with the magazine and stuff, and I was like, no, you're obviously creative, man. And your paintings, I was like, you're obviously creative, but the music's like, I don't know how you're not doing it professionally.
Yeah, I tried, and I'm a failed musician, right? A failed professional musician. I played in a couple different bands and traveled, and that was how I, sort of lived.
Yeah.
I didn't have any other job. So I could have, I guess, if I was around the right people, but the music industry is one of those that you don't have much control over. And even though there are ways now, more now than ever, to have people hear you and see you, still the money is something that is next to impossible to come by in the music industry. And hell, I've been playing music in bands for a very, very long time, but I spent the better part of 95 to 2019 playing music and never once made a real paycheck ever, So it was something that I love to do. And the shit that I have created, I guess, musically, it's not for everybody. But it is mine. It's something different. It's unique. It's, I think, relatively creative, but it was just something that I could never, rely on, unfortunately, professionally. And I think a lot of us experience that in our lives with our creative loves, right? The things that we are absolutely love and are passionate about. And all of that really comes from my childhood, where when I lived with my indigenous stepfather for 9 years, all I saw him do was play instruments all day, smoke weed, play instruments, listen to music. We had 2 walls full of fucking albums. The speakers were taller than me. It was like one of those bigger than life things that I had.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I was forever someone that was going to do music. And Kurt Cobain came around in early 90s when I was a fucking kid, when I was, 15, 16 years old, around 90 or 91. And that changed everything for me. And that's who raised me. So I watched Kurt. I mean, seriously, he raised me, and I watched Kurt, and most of the things that I do in life have probably been emulated from him or taken from him in some way, or the advice that I've read in his books, or, something about the way that I look at mainstream and the way that I look at government, the way that I look at being creative and whether or not I give a fuck whether or not anybody truly likes it, all of that kind of stuff. So that was where music was where I was raised.
Yeah, I'm going to keep all this in the interview, Dustin. Fuck this, man. Like, this is all beautiful stuff. I'm getting, like, from the beginning to it's normally what I'd normally do. You've probably seen a couple of them, but I'm like, hi, everybody, or that kind of bullshit. But fuck that, man. This is the better shit. Fuck that. Because this is authentic stuff, man. This is authentic shit, and this is beautiful stuff, man. And the thing is, I kind of giggled a bit when you were like, Kurt Cobain raised you, because I was about 10, maybe 9, 10, when I first came across it. Was Eminem, and it was Eminem's lyrical ability, man, and the fact that it was his story. Well, obviously as I got a bit older and his newer music and all that kind of stuff, but it was his story at the beginning. This like crazy poverty. His mum was a fucking idiot, and he was isolated. He had a very small social circle, and he was the fucking outcast. And I can relate to all of those things, man. It's like, and then he had this creative fucking animal that was alive inside of him. It's just, it's so
and
cool.
A lot of artists, they come from, and there's some people that have said this before in the past, and I know that there's some famous quotes around it, but sometimes it takes hurting and death and pain and all kinds of stuff to bring out your creative side as a human being. Why that is, I don't know. Why you see a lot of people that we love and sort of idolize at times when it comes to the creative things in our life, their lives are tumultuous, right? They are, if I said that right,
no, you did,
they
yeah.
are they're completely overwhelmed by life itself, and their reaction to that are these beautiful pieces of work that they produce, whether it be music or painting or anything else. And I think there's something to be said for that. I don't really know, what that means and what that means from a humanity standpoint, but I think it's important, and I think it's something that's very profound in human beings, that the way that we overcome, the way that we sort of get through, become better versions of ourselves and our real selves to begin with, is by sometimes being punched in the face with life, right? Is being stepped on, being kicked in the balls, whatever you want to call it, and seeing some of the worst things that anyone could ever see. I mean, my fucking childhood was a shit show of stuff I would never wish on anyone. 4 different dads, very poor military family background. Mom worked at Steak and Shake, and all those types of things. We had nothing. I had nothing. It was. There were things that went on in my life that I would wish on no one, and I really believe and truly feel that a lot of that has brought me to that creative moment, those creative moments in my life, and allowed me to react in a way that is positive and uplifting through those creative things. Again, don't know what that means totally for humanity. I do know it's significant.
I couldn't agree more, and it's actually funny because I've thought about that a lot of the time. Like, as you're fully aware, past couple of years personally for me has been pretty fucking grim, and it's like when we were speaking last year and stuff like that, and that's why. And I thought that to myself, like I was like, it's really bizarre because as the pain has been persistent, the quality of content has increased. I don't understand. I was like, what the fuck is this? And in my mind, I'll be honest, there's been a couple of times where I thought, fuck, I hope I didn't get happy soon. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, well, I hope I didn't get fucking well.
That's, dude, and I tell you what, brother, that's a dangerous place to be, and it's an honest place to be with yourself. And there have been times where in my life, the things that I was going through, or the things that I was consuming, and the drugs that I was doing, and the things that I were experiencing, I was like, holy shit, if any of this stops, am I going to still be able to create? Luckily, I find out that the more peaceful my life is, and that's after I went through all of my shit, all of my hurdles, and I'm still learning, but all of my really major groundbreaking learning moments about who I am as a person and how I react to things and how I fit in this world, even though I don't fit in this world, right? It's realizing all of those things. I finally got to that point where being calm and being in a very more or less serene situation for me allows my creative freedom to blossom in a much more productive way than it used to. I always thought it was reversed because I was always going through massive shit and I was coming up with my art because of it. Now it's I come up with my art because I love it and my life is calm. So, if you'll continue to go through shit. We all do. But I think the understanding of how my creative process works and the morphing of it over the past decade or so, really since about 2007, when the world went to shit and we crashed the economy here and fucked everyone, and all the poor people got a lot poorer, like myself. And, I lost my fiance, my home, my job, everything in 2007. And that fucking turned my life into a shit bag of nothingness. But once I got through that, after a few years, I started to realize that the creative side of me enjoys a much more quiet, calm thing. And I've been searching for that ever since.
That sounds nice, man. That sounds nice. And that's what's interesting is that there's, at the moment in the archive, I've got 4 different animations in the archive that I've not put online, right? And it's all relating to mental health. One of them's to do with family. One of them's to do with being in a piss poor, shitty job. because you have to be. And there's two others as well. And I've not released them.
You mean real life shit? Real life shit we all fucking deal with, man.
100%, exactly that. And that's what makes it kind of like, I don't know what you call that, but that's exactly it. We're all in this position. And I think so many people can relate to those things. And that's why I was like, cathartically, I'll use this, man. Fuck it. I'm just struggling at the moment. But then having that at the back. So it's weird, man, because it's like, I don't know, the past week or so has been kind of cool. But I'm in a position where I kind of want to release them. My intention to release them in October, because that's like mental health month. So I was going to do, because there's 4 of them, I was like, I'll do one every Friday, or one every Monday, which is one a week kind of thing, as a compliment to that. But yeah, it's
that's dope.
I'm delighted to be able to be creative, man, just for the fact that if otherwise it'd be like substances, it used to be a lot of Valium, it used to be all that kind of shit. As a lot of people know.
I was a Xanax boy over here.
Yeah, well, that's the same essentially, man. Xanax, Valium, it's all the same poison, really, and it was the same. We were like the amount of times that it would be. Yeah, man, it was the amount of time. I remember one time my mate, because he told me this story where I was like, so we all go through the same bullshit, and it's like you fund your habit with providing others, that kind of shit, and that's what we all do. And he told me this thing, and I remember about it is walking to the park, and I don't remember anything after this. So essentially, I went into his house. This is me in ultimate Valium mode. Walked into his house. I'd just been talking to some people, as you can imagine, and then when walking to this park, and I remember nothing after the park. It's like fucking pitch black. What he remembers is me walking over to a tree, because him and his stepdad walked me up the road. They're like, "Can I take him up the road, man? He needs to fucking walk with him." I was like, "Fuck!" So, and I walk over to this fucking tree to do a pish, and he just sees me going fucking boom, right face first. I was like, "Ah, shit! I have no memory of this, no memory." But he could be lying if it wasn't the fact that I remember both of them walking me to this park. But apart after that, I'm like, I don't know what happened, man. But that was bad days. Oh.
The blackout days, dude, for real. That was a fucking real issue, and it's bad. I still have many moments, whether it be because of the trauma or because of the drugs after the trauma, that I don't remember in life, and I probably shouldn't remember those times. So yeah, I've been there many times, dude. I'm glad I don't do it anymore. I'm glad that I've been past that moment. And dude, there was a time where cocaine was a fucking problem, and I don't want to say a problem, but it was just too much, right? It was just being gluttonous and being stupid for no reason, other than not being happy with life, and not being happy in the position that I was in, and the position really I put myself in, or found myself putting myself in, on a consistent basis. So I think a lot of it, at least as far as being stupid behavior and unhealthy behavior overall, I don't want to say it's necessarily anyone forcing us into it, but the way that our and it's a little different there than it is in the US, so I can't speak for everyone, but a way that a lot of our country sort of runs and our society runs is instant gratification, and if you don't have money, you're a fucking loser, and it's very hard to get by with very little money. Life can be kind of a shitbag at times, and education is kind of weird, and there's just all of these little things that don't have to be. And instead of our government and a lot of people that do have control making things better for everyone, I think a lot of us see in our society that almost no matter how hard we struggle at times, and no matter how hard we fight, we continue to get punched in the face, right? And we still have to climb back up to the top and do it again and over and over. And so you go to that instant gratification that's so easy, and get me a fucking Xanax. Let me have a couple of bourbons on top of that, smoke a big fat joint, and do a fucking rail of blow. And, the next thing you know, I don't give a fuck. But at the same time, I do, and it's a mind fuck, and your health is all over the place, and it's a terrible place to be. But eventually, you do have to come up with ways to be able to cope with that stuff and those thoughts, and the knowledge that your government and the people that are really running things don't have your best interest in mind. They really don't. It's unfortunate. They're supposed to. The way that we are taught means that the people in charge are supposed to care. But we know that that's really not the case, especially, I'll be 48 this year. So in my 40 plus years that I've been on this earth.
Looking good, man. Fucking hell, 48. You're looking good, Dustin, bro.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I didn't shave today. I know I look a little rough, but you know, I have never seen a government that has truly been here helping the small working mom and pop or working class person. Mm-hmm. And so we all want something else and different and fun in life. We want to be able to enjoy something. And you know, it's not all of it within all of our reach to go have a cool vacation and get away and learn something new. But it is in most of our budgets to go get an 8-ball, yeah. You know, or to find a fucking Xanax or, you know, whatever your vice may be. And it sucks. It's sad. So you have to, as you get older, learn how to cope with all that stuff in better ways. Cannabis being one of those, right?
That's actually perfect. You would say that, by the way, about a vacation and then using Xanax, because Aldous Huxley says that intoxication is a vacation from yourself. And that's what he says, and that's what you're doing. You're essentially, and another point I find quite interesting is, obviously, as we mentioned before, you're an extremely creative individual. And what I was talking about today, actually, earlier on today, was I wonder, it'd be good to do an experiment on how many creative individuals, or I should flip it around, how many substance users are creative fundamentally? Because when you're engaged with creativity, you're stimulating specific neurological pathways, dopamine, serotonin, the same pathways that are getting stimulated when you ingest chemicals. So I was like, I wonder how many people who are actually just creative couldn't find a creative outlet, so they just started drinking or they just started taking something, you know?
That's a fucking great point. And I think it's probably a very high likely that most creatives are some sort of substance abuse or substance user, I say, or consumer in some form. I think, and look, I want to make sure, let me backpedal here a little bit. There's nothing wrong with human beings seeking a different state of mind.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that whatsoever. I think we should be allowed to do that whenever we want. And I think it's in our human nature to do so. We've been ingesting plants and plant medicines since the beginning of time. And to think we haven't means you've been brainwashed by Western society, and you don't understand, you know, human history. So it's a natural place for us to want, or a natural thing for us to want to take our minds to a different place, a different feeling, our bodies to feel different, not to have pain, all of that kind of stuff. Being human is meaning you have pain, right? So you seek out things of not having those, you know, a different state of being. It's natural. I think it's good and it's positive. Where we cross the line is where we have makers of synthetic drugs who, you know, these things hurt us and they know that we want them, that they know that we, you know, as human beings have these systems in our brains and in our bodies that say, give it to me, right? And they're taken advantage of. And that's both in the pharmaceutical side and the legal side, and on the in the black market legacy traditional side of things as well. So again, it's one of those things where I want to make sure that I'm very clear in stating that there is nothing wrong with human beings seeking a different state of mind and body. I encourage people to do so. I do it as well, but it has to be done in a smart way, and hopefully you're using plant medicines to do so.
Fully agree, and I'm glad you pointed that out, actually, because that's obviously, and the whole thing obviously talking about there is based on people using it as an escape, whereas the idea of using it as a addition or a complement to your life, that's what, like,
Bingo.
I was totally having the same dynamic earlier on today, and the person I was talking to disagreed completely with me, but personally I had said to them, I think heroin should be legal. I think every drug should be, every single drug should be legal. And what you would see is a dramatic decrease in overdoses, because Scotland's got an insane heroin issue, as it has for a long time. Use most likely as well. Exactly. And that's what's so frustrating about the use of, obviously, opiates and all that kind of shit. And that's why I was like, if you make all this, and it's the same with like things like prostitution and stuff, these things should be readily accessible, because I mean, we're fucking adults, man. And if you're in a position where you can't dictate what goes on in your own body, you're not really free, you know.
Well, look, the societies that have legalized these substances and these, you know,
professions,
professions, ways of living, they have less crime, they have less poverty, they have less uneducated, you know, they have a higher number of working adults that their countries tend to get along. They're not at each other's throats, right? You don't see, and no one is perfect. Don't get me wrong. Every country has its thing. All people have their things. And I'm trying to think of, is it Portugal? Yeah, that has legalized all drugs, period. And look, you make them safe, but we're also here in the US, we intend on always, at least from Nixon, we intend on making money off of healthcare. We don't want to necessarily cure your anything. We want to keep you on the healthcare tit. That's what we're here to do, and make money off of you. So
and that's where cannabis comes in. Then you just get a cupboard, you grow your fucking medicine, you do extraction processes, and that's where cannabis lives, you know.
Which is another big reason why it still remains as a Scheduled I substance here in the U.S., you know, and around the world, people still kind of freak out about it every now and then. So it's changing still, you know, we've been in this changing mode for a very long time, and we'll continue to go that way even after, hopefully, we do deschedule it completely. But even after all of that, you'll still have a little bit of reefer madness that lives on until really maybe another generation or so completely goes away.
It's funny when you say that. It's like, so when you say we're always in that changing mode, it's funny because I laughed at somebody on Twitter the other day when he says, within 5 years it'll be legal. I was like, fuck, we've been saying 5 years for the last 25 years. What the fuck's this?
I've been saying 5 years for the last 5 years for sure. Yeah. You know, everybody says 5 years. It's just five is like an easy. Now I got five fingers. It's 5 years. There's no thought behind that, dude. It's just, you have to look at who really runs things. I think we all know this. Like, if you just stop for a second and think, how does our government run? Oh, okay, that's why. The things that we truly want are not legal. Or if they are legal, that is in, you know, quotes, and it means that industry controls it. You know, and we have a choice of some different toothpastes in the store. You know, that's the real freedom that we have and stuff. But anyway, we live in some weird shit, and it's all about money. I wish it wasn't. We have a chance to, and that goes from healthcare to food industry to, you know, anything and everything that you can think of that they can make money off of us. They will. And I sort of understand that because I've been born in this capitalistic fucking shithole at times, even though I love where I live. And I think we have some of the greatest things in the world here. We have a lot to learn. We're still a young country. We have a shit ton to learn from other places and other people around the world. Unfortunately, I think most people understand that our countries don't like us to think globally. And like to keep us thinking very, you know, within our country, and then that way we beat each other up, and you know, it's kind of separate us amongst ourselves and make things easy to control, and it's unfortunate. And I hate to talk about all this stuff and sound so negative, but I'm really not. I just kind of see these things, and in the way that I combat them is through cannabis, through being super positive and uplifting about the plant and the people that surround it and the culture and the industry surrounding it. It's my way of saying fuck you in the most positive way possible. It really is. And it's because I get on your face. With a smile, because, you know, as much as I talk shit about certain things that we have in our society, certain institutions and things, I still believe that eventually we can have the right people running them so that our country runs the way that we intended for it to run, not the way it is running now. And a lot of that can be helped with and through cannabis. And it helps on the environmental side, and it helps with our health side. It helps with food. It helps with remediation of soil, and it helps, you know, all kinds of stuff. So I just want to be a part of that. And even though, again, it may sound like that I bitch, moan, and complain about certain things, certain institutions, I'm more than happy to help make things better. And I'm trying to do that with the magazine, with Three Good Buds, trying to be as positive and uplifting and helpful as possible, and do it that way, and try to bring some good fucking shit into the world, so that I know that I'm spending my time wisely, what very short time that I have on this planet wisely, at least in my view.
The thing is, you touched on both the innovative things you're doing there, Dustin. So let's start with Fat Nugs. How did that even come about? For people that are unaware of it, and let's say a compliment to probably the most innovative, unique magazine that's happening globally in cannabis right now.
Damn, man, I appreciate that. I don't know how that came to be, but I can tell you, or what that makes that the case. But what I can tell you is that this never really intended to be a magazine to begin with. I rarely ever tell this story, fully, because the way that I started to create Fat Nugs was by kind of making a funny slapstick kind of thing, fun of somebody in this industry, with another magazine. I kind of used another person's stuff and put my stuff on top of it, and I was like, "Here, this is better," and it was kind of funny, right? It was just
Right.
supposed to be a joke, and it got a very, very big reaction. So big that I ended up having to remove it because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I was like, holy shit, I didn't really mean it was supposed to be funny. This was a joke, you guys, like calm down. It's
Yeah.
okay. This isn't real. But anyway, that's kind of how it started. I waited a couple of weeks after that and thought to myself, I have this creative itch. It's always been in me. I've been like I said, I played music, I do some painting, whatever the case may be. So I'm always looking for a creative dump. And making that magazine cover gave me sort of the satisfaction of taking care of that itch. So a couple of weeks later, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna create. I'm gonna create my own. Here we go. I'm gonna create my own cover. And I started running through some of our stoner vernacular, basically, and was like, those are fat joints. That's a fat blunt. That's a fat sack. Those are fat nugs. Okay, let me see. Okay, so I started to play with a little bit of a design. I saw that there was a magazine, a local magazine. I think it's in California somewhere, a Nugs magazine. So I was like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm not ripping these guys, whatever it is that they're doing. So I made sure to name it Fat Nugs to make, to give it its own flavor. And from there, it was all about really different, sort of an artsy take on stoner imagery. Not necessarily stoner imagery, really. It was, I don't want to say an elevated stoner imagery. That's kind of silly. And that really downs on what we have known to always be sort of that really glorious, fun, characteristic kind of things that we have in our stoner and cannabis culture. But what I tried to do was to give it just something new and updated, I guess, without having to try, and just letting some free flow shit that I do come to surface. And that's what happened. And really, with the first uh, very first edition, the very first magazine that we released, the real one, back in May of last year, that was really the first time that I got to dive in to what I really loved about all of the other publications, all of the other creative projects I've ever done, including me being in the film industry as well for 4 years and working on some of the most badass stuff I've could ever think about working on. I was able to kind of pull together all of that stuff and put it into a magazine form. And it was art, it was, articles, it was just imagery, and just a gathering of stoner and cannabis culture, but done in a way that was smart, educational, scientific, very personal as well, because that's how you engage other audiences. And that's how I've sort of set this thing up to be a bridge. So true cannabis and stoner culture, as a bridge to the rest of the world. So how do you do that? You do that by talking about cannabis in a way that's very positive and uplifting, maybe some science, science and education, but it's very, very personal, meaning there's a story running in here. That's how we like to tell about the plant, where you can talk to someone that doesn't really give a shit about cannabis so much, but they might be a little curious, kind of stuff. You can overwhelm them with educational and scientific things. But as soon as you mention, or you can bore them to death, right? You can talk about it till you're blue in the face, because that's what we do, cannabis people. We just fucking talk about weed. That's what we always do. Not everybody else does that. And a lot of people get bored with it. So how do we get their attention? How do we get them coming back? How do we get them more interested, more kind of curious? You give them stories that may have science and education as a base, but it's very personal. So you say, when you start to mention, my autistic 2-year-old child takes a broad spectrum product at night to help with blah, 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 that's when people start to listen. Or my 82-year-old grandmother smokes a joint at night on the couch because her blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Or my 12-year-old son who has whatever, that kind of stuff. When you start to tell those stories, that's when you win. That's when I think the industry wins. That's when the plant truly wins. We then connect ourselves to the plant instead of just this science and education thing. It's something that is meaningful to life. It's fun. It is different than, someone handing you a bottle of fucking pills and saying, go take these. We can differentiate ourselves in a lot of different ways. And I think in this magazine, I'm able to do that in so many different ways, including personal stories that have educational and a scientific basis. So that was really kind of, as I sort of developed the art framework of the cover of the magazine. Obviously, the covers of the magazine drive this magazine and what's inside of it. And it's usually sort of kind of a focus and sort of kind of a design aspect. So once I figured out the framework of that, and I posted, and this is before the May 6th one, but I started to post these things, and I know that I'm kind of jumping ahead and going back, but before the May 6th one, what really started it was Fat Nugs Friday. Every Friday, I'd post a new cover of something different, creative. Cannabis people love it, understand it, connect with it, and it grew. Every Friday, the amount of feedback was just astronomical. I never thought I would see anything like it. There were times where I couldn't catch up to the DMs, and I still have that now. At times I can't catch up to the DMs that I have on LinkedIn. And I built this thing through LinkedIn. I built it all through social media. I built it all through networking and connecting, just like you and I connected, and just did it slowly and like step by step like that. The conversation that you and I had when I first started, that was the same conversation I had with everyone, dude.
It's funny that's when you were talking about posting up those every Friday. That's what caught my eye. I was like, what the fuck is this fucking new magazine? What's this all about?
Yep. It was every Friday. Call it Fat Nugs Friday. Try to be catchy, try to be visually, grab you visually, because as you're scrolling, especially on LinkedIn, and I think this was the key to it when I first started, because it can be, visually appealing. When you're scrolling on LinkedIn, there's a lot of text. A lot of people don't use visuals in their posts when they're so they're text heavy. The eye is overwhelmed. What's the best way to get that to stop? Get that person to stop scrolling. Give them something cool to look at, not to read, something fucking cool to look at. Now, once you have their attention, you may only have it for a few seconds. That's where you start to put in, cute little snazzy, titles and things, right? Like LinkedIn, it's not a dating site, those kinds of things that people are like, oh shit, okay, I want to read that. And so that's where the whole clickbait thing kind of comes in, but I don't take it there. We don't ever do that kind of stuff, like that article that LinkedIn released not too long ago that had me in it, where I think the title is something like cannabis professionals or cannabis leaders love to do, love LinkedIn and use it to connect illegal. I don't know what the fuck I can't even remember what it was, but I was like, okay, that's a little clickbaitish. You went a little far with that. But it does work, right? So that was a part of the way that I built this, was give them something visual and then give them something that they might want to read. And that first drop on May 6th, it proved that we did have sort of a way to fill a gap in this industry, that some of the other publications that we have left. And I don't talk shit about other people's publications, but when I was growing up, and this publication is built on or based on really not only me growing up with the plant on a daily basis. So, and I haven't even gotten into that, because really this magazine was built and based on who I am as a person first. I had 22 family members that are either current or former military. When everybody came back from Vietnam, the stories were, we had PTSD in my family everywhere. A lot of people had issues, even though we didn't know it was PTSD back then. So weed was smoked all the time. It was consumed all the time in my family. So my earliest childhood memories are of my family and aunts and uncles, friends, all of that, smoking and being around it. It wasn't that big a deal in the 70s. It just wasn't. So I also grew up with an indigenous stepfather for 9 years. And we mentioned him earlier about the music part, but and him being a consumer. And let's just say I saw some plants around the house, and that continued. When I went to college, I ended up helping pay for my college by running pounds from Atlanta, Georgia, down to Georgia Southern University. I became a daily consumer in 1995. So again, the plant has always been in my life. I've always been around it, either running it, consuming it, watching my parents and my family treat their health conditions and themselves with it. It's always meant a lot to me. So there's where my passion comes from. I also lost my dad back in 2016, and the VA was shoving Percocet down his throat for 20 years because he broke his neck, instead of him having access to high quality cannabis. My dad was also someone that lived in his van, no lie, lived in his van down by the river selling weed. I'm not kidding, in St. Louis, down by the Mississippi River. So again, weed has always been, or cannabis has always been, a part of my life. It's always been a part of who I am. And this magazine is something that I want to make sure that represents the purest part of me, which I believe is the cannabis part of me. So that's another way that another thing that this magazine is based on. Now, there are 3 publications specifically that caught my eye as a kid growing up. I was a skater punk. So Thrasher magazine was the shit to me. I loved seeing dudes pulling McTwists, and it was a double-page spread of a photo of a guy upside down on a half. I mean, it was just fucking dope. I loved it. So that was always significant in my life. Mad magazine. I remember walking through grocery stores with my mom and seeing Mad magazine on the stand and always being so intrigued by the red-haired, freckled, big-eared guy. And, that told me that the visual aspect and interest there was a very obvious thing, right? Catching your attention. It just makes sense. So I was always curious about that magazine. And then, of course, early High Times, 80s, early 90s High Times, where if you had one, you were a badass, right? If you had a High Times magazine with those beautiful buds, it was something special. So that's how I've approached this magazine, is trying to not only learn from and take examples from those early things in my childhood that I loved, but to put a new spin on it for the times that we live in right now, where we have an abundance of amazing creative people in the world who love cannabis and who are out of the closet at this point. Let's take advantage of all of this creative fucking nature that we have, and use it to do good in this world by being as uplifting and supportive of everyone that we can, that truly deserves to be uplifted and supported. Not the ones that go and pay off politicians to keep people out of the industry. Prohibition 2.0 kind of stuff. Not those people. The people that are busting their ass every day, who have, they put in the work, have been around this plant, understand what it can do, consume it, talk about it, believe in it, vocalize it, advocate for it. Those types of people are who we should be uplifting as much as we can. And then making sure that those voices are focused in a way that is, and cannabis is supposed to be fun first, right? We're supposed to be focused on enjoying life and having cannabis help support the fun and good and the adding more life to life, right? Part of things. And that we focus those things on people that don't understand that yet, to them in a way that really brings them in, that tells them there is a better way to do everything in this world, right? It can be a much more calm, inclusive, fun, not so dreadful place all the fucking time filled with drugs and alcohol and sickness and there are better ways, right? There really is. And I think we have an opportunity through cannabis to do that. And I wanted to do that with the magazine. So really representing as much as I can of the people that I have always been around when it comes to cannabis, my family and friends that have always been connected to this plant, representing them in the best way possible through this magazine is important to me. And uplifting those voices, mom and pop, small, equity, women, legacy, and traditional owned cannabis businesses, super important to me. My grandparents owned a farm. Some of the best times I ever had in my life was watching my grandma wring a chicken's neck. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, everyone who is a vegetarian or
vegetarians,
a vegan.
Unsubscribe.
I'm sorry. I'll go outside and take care of lunch, or I'm sorry, take care of dinner, and really what that means to be connected to the earth and the land and the things that you are honoring on your land and the way that you're growing them and then you are providing for your family with them. It's something that is special and that a lot of people have lost touch with. And I think cannabis is another one of those things that allow us to come back into those types of things, right? It allows a lot of us, or helps, I guess, I know that cannabis doesn't make us do anything, but a lot of times cannabis seems to allow us to be more or better or more connected, or I don't know. And I could be wrong. I could be this flighty, fucking floaty, weird dude who loves cannabis too much. I don't know, but I think I have seen studies over the past couple of years that say that there is a connection between cannabis consumption and an increase in empathy and compassion and all of those things, right? And I think that there's something to be said for that. And look, I think being a part of it in a magazine, even though it's a very small little piece, I think it's an important piece to have. It fills a gap. We can talk about cannabis the way that it deserves to be talked about in this magazine. That's another way it fills a gap. It's honest and open. It's not a pay-to-play piece of shit. And I don't mean to bag on anybody else's stuff. It's just the way that I look at it. I'm a very independent natured person. And I want the magazine to be that way as much as possible as well. And I think that's how we best serve our community and the plan overall.
Couldn't agree more, Dustin. Honestly, I really couldn't. And that's like a lot of the things you're saying there, in particular about the empathy thing, about how cannabis, essentially, it's a real humbling tool. Because that's one of the things I've noticed is, like, they always say that it's like a time with, like, times with weed will get you through times with no money better than times with money with times with no weed. And that's what it's like. It's like you consume cannabis and you're just kind of like, fuck it, I'm not bothered, man. And that's what it's kind of like, and that's it's the same thing. The amount of times that there's been arguments or fallouts, a couple of draws of a joint, I'm like, fuck, I shouldn't have been like that, man. And then immediately you're going back to them,
Yeah, it helps with the important things, right? It helps you to realize what's truly important. And that's not always the case. I never, blanket statement anything. There are times where I smoke weed and I'm probably not the best human. So, no one is perfect. But cannabis does allow us to sort of connect with ourselves, I believe, on a deeper level, with each other on a deeper level, and have a little more forethought and awareness, maybe a little more emotional intelligence, that we all have a place here, and that we're all welcome, and we should all be doing our best to uplift one another and not separate each other and talk shit. And it's much more about bringing people together, and cannabis is one of those things. It's a great tool to be able to do that.
It's definitely community oriented. Like in the UK, it's something that really unifies everybody. People that are involved with cannabis, you've got groups of people that would normally fall out, but you're sharing a joint and all of a sudden you're unified, which perfectly takes me to the community element of Three Good Buds. What the fuck is Three Good Buds?
That's a good question, man. And I'm glad you asked, because a lot of people don't know. So it's sort of an extension of the magazine. And what ended up happening was Daniel Crawford and Aaron Weiss and myself just all connected one day. And started to talk about the importance of mental health because we were coming out of the pandemic. This was last May. May is Mental Health Month awareness, something. Yeah. Right. Mental Health Awareness Month. And I was starting to use this saying, sesh with friends, it's important. With the thought that when I went and saw my friends, that was when I was like, I didn't worry about stuff. I was joyful. I was happy. I was ripping their bong or, using their Puffco or, smoking a fat joint or a blunt or whatever. And my worries went away. Their worries went away. We were able to just connect and be cool and just bullshit and not, freak out about stuff and worry about life and stuff all the time. And it's absolutely important that we continue to do that, especially as we come out of a pandemic. There are still a ton of people that haven't been around groups of people since the pandemic. There are people that now have more anxiety and things of that nature because of the pandemic. So what we thought was, let's create a space where people are just like, welcome to come smoke and talk and reintroduce themselves in a way that's through cannabis. So 3 Good Buds started back in May as a way to check on each other. Let's build a community. Let's start to support each other and help each other. And it was 3 dudes who, a lot of times, let's be honest, guys aren't really all that upfront about their feelings. We're supposed to be strong and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's a fucking bunch of crap. Yeah. So having a space where we can all go and just like fucking talk and it's everybody, not just dudes, it's everybody. And just be themselves and smoke and see other people smoking. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. I can get back into this and have conversations and learn something and meet new people. And so that's what we did. Built a community based on that. From there, what's happened is as we have grown the community, we've realized that there are a lot of amazing people in the community through cannabis and with that consume cannabis, that are in the cannabis industry, run cannabis businesses, that are CEOs and all of that stuff. And we all have so much in common. And cannabis really does connect all of us. It runs through every single one of us that are in this space, in the 3 Good Buds space, whether you love it, you consume it, you grow it, whatever the case may be. And so we started to realize that all of these people represent businesses and opportunities to meet each other and do business with each other, good people that you can trust, that come into our ethos and realize that I can't fuck around here. I am a good person here. If I'm not a good person, I'm the fuck out. And that's what we've built, is a very supportive, positive community where you can come in, ask questions, gain knowledge of all kinds of stuff, share pictures, videos, talk about family stuff. If you have issues going on, you just lost your job, guess what? We have a full thread with all kinds of jobs that we post almost every single day. So there's all kinds of support and stuff that we have going on within the community, which meant as we started to have more conversations, there were companies that would come to us and say, we would love for you all to be a part of what we're doing. And that's what we're doing. So.
Bless you.
Thank you. So basically, a company called Black Thumb from Australia and 3 Good Buds, we got together, realized that we could do some really cool stuff, and we joined forces, and 3 Good Buds is their training division for their software. And the software is for grow and post-production facilities, and it's to make it efficient and much more effective for everyone involved. A lot easier, a lot better, streamline everything, all of that stuff, have things all in one place. So it's extremely useful and helpful to the industry. And that was the first thing. So when we do deals or we do any kind of projects or programs, or we're collaborating with other businesses or other people in the industry, the first thing I always say, and you can ask anybody this, is this a good person? Who am I dealing with? Who are we working with? That kind of stuff. So that's first and foremost. The next is, are we actually helping the industry? Are we helping the plant grow here? Are we doing the right things for our culture and our community. That's what our big overarching goal is when it comes to this company that we built, Three Good Buds. So as we have grown, we've made sure, and we did this when Black Thumb came in, we wanted to learn their software and say, this is actually extremely useful for the industry. It's very, very helpful. We want to be a part of this. And so things started to snowball there. Then Quick Liquids and Blake, we got together with him because his product, we love Quick Liquids. We love the quick drops that they're making. It's an actual product that is so helpful on the medical side. It's groundbreaking. I think it's one of the best products to have come out of the cannabis industry, period. It's dose controlled. It's as close to full spectrum as you can get. Water soluble. You can make an infused drink out of anything.
That's a phenomenal. Sorry to interject there, Dustin, but the fact that it's water soluble is a big deal. I was speaking about that yesterday to somebody. Water soluble THC is something that they're trying to innovate plants to do, so that's a big deal.
It's a huge deal, and there's a patent on it, and Quick Liquids owns that patent. So we got our hands on Quick Drops via Blake. Blake Villa is the CEO, and Blake, by the way, is a fucking killer guy. You should connect with him if you haven't before. His product, when we got our hands on it, I immediately looked at Daniel and Aaron from Three Good Buds, and I said, my God, you guys, I would love to be able to do something with this product. And so what we did, and this was, unbeknownst to Blake, was just start pushing. And we were like, this is great stuff, people. Please just look at this. We're not getting paid for this stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't care. I want everybody to have access to this. Your grandma in the hospital, she can't smoke, right? But she can have Quick Liquids. She can put that in her fucking water and no one even knows. And even though that may not be recommended by people, I'm one who loves cannabis and I am very, very pro cannabis, and the first person that will admit that I am very biased. Mm. And I think cannabis should be available anywhere and everywhere. I don't care. So that is something where from the medical side, you're not smoking anything. It's accessible to anyone and everyone. I've taken it into restaurants and put it in any drink that I water, for that matter. It doesn't cloud the drink. It's just, and again, you can make it out of like live rosin. You can make it out of so many things and have it the full plant profile where you're not destroying the cannabinoids and terpenes. And it's, so as close to full spectrum as you can get because it's made at 185 degrees. So you're not destroying all of that gold, right? Yeah. So it becomes a truly medical viable product. And I think it's groundbreaking. So we began to push it just because we loved it. Blake and Quick Liquids saw the value in that. And so we came together and started to do it, formally. Mm-hmm. So everything has been very natural with Three Good Buds and Fat Nugs Magazine because all of it comes from like very passionate places. We're not here like, yeah, I'm going to make a quick buck. I have yet to make $1 off of anything. Yeah, I have never made $1 off of Fat Nugs Magazine. And after expenses, I'm still in the hole with probably Three Good Buds. Yeah. So, it's one of those things where I think in the cannabis industry, it's important to do this. You focus on the right stuff, which is the love that comes first and the passion that comes first for uplifting this plant and spreading it everywhere that you can in a good way, and promote that stuff. And as you do that, you bring in the people that you really should be working with, the good people that love this plant as well. They're here on this earth to make a difference, to make things better. And hopefully the money comes, right? That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, that 100%, Dustin. And that's interestingly about the 185 degrees thing. That was awesome because one of the things I've noticed a lot of time with a lot of products is that the way they manufacture it, terpenes are destroyed in the process. The temperature's too high. And terpenes have an enormous amount of medical benefit. So the fact that that's not the case, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. We put a fire to our bud, right? Yeah. You're well over 185 degrees there, buddy. So it's a very different experience to experience the plant in a full spectrum way than it is to smoke it as well. And I think most modalities are going to be different, and you feel them differently and all that stuff. What's another good thing about quick liquids is that it kicks in within just a couple of minutes because it is water soluble, right? Instead of oil based, like your body is 70% water. Oil and water don't necessarily mix in its full capacity at times, and edibles have to go through its process, right? The body process has to go through all of that. Quick liquids, as soon as it hits your mouth, it's already starting to go, right? It's water soluble, so it's being soaked up immediately. It kicks in very quickly. It's a really cool thing to think about having in like a lounge aspect where you're having mocktails, so that a lot of cannabis drinks may take a little bit of time to kick in, or an edible can take 45 minutes to hell up to an hour and a half to 2 hours sometimes for certain people. And you never know how it's going to hit, because you don't know if your diet that day is going to affect you, or how much you did or did not work out, or you did or did not sleep, or all of that stuff. And it'll hit you differently. And if you're in a lounge situation, that can become dangerous, right? You can get in your car after being in a lounge, or all of a sudden you've got 250 milligrams that hit you all at once, and you're like, holy shit, probably shouldn't have done that. Quick liquids is something where you drink a mocktail, and just like you were having a cocktail, you would feel it, right? So you understand your capacity to be able to operate machinery safely and all of that stuff, if and when that comes to be an issue. So there are a lot of benefits to quick liquid stuff.
Yeah, the fact that it's so accurate for dose control, again, that's a big deal. Looking forward to them arriving in the UK.
Yeah, I know that he's working on it. I know that. Where it is in that process, I have no idea. We're just kind of getting started here in the US, as far as I can tell. Or as if it's up to me, we're just getting started. But yeah, I'm hoping it'll be everywhere sooner rather than later. And you're right, dose control is a huge deal. And the way that stuff works is 1 drop is 1 milligram of THC, which is really cool. Now, obviously, dependent upon the strain, because it's strain, variety, cultivar specific. That 1 drop will also have maybe a 1-to-1. So maybe it's a CBD and THC dependent upon that plant. Maybe you made it out of I don't know what's a good 1-to-1 plant.
Cream cheese. That's my favorite, cream cheese.
There you go. That's a good one. I'm trying to think of, oh my God, what is the character from the Joker? Oh my gosh, the girl.
Harley Quinn.
Yes, Harley Quinn. Yes, Harley. There we go. Harley Quinn is another good 1-to-1. Yeah. So dependent upon the strain, variety, or cultivar, that 1 drop will have specific things in it, right?
Yeah. Well, I say you're absolutely smashing it, Dustin. We've pretty much covered fucking what you're after. I mean, what you got in the pipeline for the next couple of months?
So we have the next edition of Fat Nugs Magazine. The second print edition comes out this Friday, so 3 days, where I'm super stoked, nervous. I used a different printer this time. Had some issues with my first printer, and there's always hurdles with this thing, man. It's a learning curve from.
Sorry to interrupt, Dustin. What is the logistics behind creating a Fat Nugs? I mean, what is it? Because that's what I was going to ask. Like, what is the frequent challenge for creating this thing?
Man, the challenges are all over the place. First of all, sometimes writers can be like herding cats, because it's not like like I said, none of us are making money here. We're all doing this for free. So it's not like I can go, hey, I got $250 for you, or $150 for you, or even $50 for you to go out and write this particular story or interview this person or whatever. So that can be challenge number 1. And the way that we've overcome that is really by being extremely transparent. First of all, with everything that we do, and everyone knowing that I've never made a fucking penny off of this thing, and that all that we do here is we're passion. Everything is focused on our passions. And this is where we get to uplift voices that don't necessarily get to be heard in our industry. So people understand that once you get a byline, it can be very helpful to get jobs and other paying gigs and all of that stuff. So it's a way that people can, use us as a springboard, so to speak. So that's one of the ways that we've overcome not having money to pay people anything here. Is I'm going to try and push you and your name and your work as much as I can, period. The other hurdles, besides the money stuff. So I've gone through I'm on my 4th editor-in-chief. Why? Because people don't have time to work for free. And I get that. And I have never bitched, moaned, and complained about any of it. I am totally understanding of that. And I'm the first person that says, please go do what you got to do. I'll be here if and when we start making some money. I would love to have you back. You know what I mean? And that's how I move forward that way. So, losing editor-in-chief over and over again from almost one edition to the next is one of the most stressful things that I have experienced with this magazine, because the editor-in-chief is really in control of the editorial content, not me. I can be, and I have been. Don't get me wrong. Not only can I write, I can edit. I have done it many times in my life, and you can look at some of the stuff that I've done in the past and see that I can do it. And you can look at some of my articles that I've written and see that I can write. So I belong doing this. I can do it. Can I also be the salesperson, the person who is reaching out for dispensaries, the person who is working with the printer? Can I be the designer that is doing this thing for 10 plus hours a day that I have to put in for 2-3 weeks at a time to get this thing built? No. So losing an editor-in-chief is massively difficult, and it's probably been the biggest hurdle to overcome. At this time, I have overcome that, I believe, with our new editor-in-chief, Melanie Rizzo. She is phenomenal. We have an assistant editor, Lindsay Gunter, who is absolutely amazing, super energy. And we have our art director with Rebecca Jenks, and she is extremely helpful. And she helped me overcome another very large hurdle, which was on the printer side. Printing things is not cheap these days. And if you want to get any sort of price breaks, it's in the thousands you have to purchase, right? We all know that. So it costs a pretty penny, and I understand that. But I also am trying to make sure that my printers or the people that I talk to about printing understand that we don't have any money. I'm not making any money off of this. What I am trying to do is build something so that as we move forward, you're going to grow with us. You're going to be my printing partner. I am going to be increasing the amount that we print every single time. Our distribution is going to get bigger, which means hopefully within a year or 2 or 3, we're printing 20, 30, 40,000 magazines every other month. And guess what? You'll be getting paid because you stepped in early, right? And you've helped and all of that stuff and loyalty. And, those things mean something to me. So that's what I've tried to really get across to our printers and people that I would possibly be printing with. It's just another hurdle, right? Because it comes back to money, not having money to just throw around freely. Because we don't have investors, because I don't have people standing over us going, here's money, do what I want you to do, Mr. Puppet. I'm not going to fucking do that. So I have to suffer through all of the bumps and bruises that come along with that. And so how did I get through the printing fiasco this time? Instead of paying out my ass again, I looked and had these deep conversations with a few different printers. And I finally got one in Denver that said, dude, I love what you're doing. I love the approach that you have. I love the magazine as well. It's super artistically driven. And like, he got it. And I didn't have to even really say a whole lot, right? He just got it. And he immediately was like, I'm going to do everything I can. And he came back with a price. And I was like, God, thank you, Lord, I can actually do this. So the big hurdle there, now that was taken care of, was I don't have a printer that's in my backyard that I can go to and look at the proof and see it physically, what it feels like, looks like, smells like, all of that stuff, because we made changes. This first print edition, and I know you don't have one because you're 5 million years away from me. I still need to get you one. We're going to work on that. Don't worry. I will take care of that. It's very thick on the inside as well as the cover, and I want it to feel more magazine-y, right? The guts are usually more easily, they're flimsier, right? They're not as thick. So we made some changes to this one. That costs more money as well. The printer was able to really come through The problem is that I don't have someone that I can go to here and check everything out. So the hurdle was overcome by having my my art director, Rebecca. She lives just outside of Denver, thankfully. So she drove in, looked at the proof, said it was great. Obviously, not everything was perfect. We're never going to be perfect here until I actually have some sort of budget that will help me in certain aspects. One of those aspects is another hurdle: design. I am the designer here. On this edition, I designed it. There is no one else that is being paid to design this time. In the other editions, it was myself and my editor in chief and a designer. And this time it's just me. And the amount of time that took, I lost a lot of hair over the past couple of months building that thing. That's another hurdle. I can design. That's not that big a deal. I have to design in a way that fits our articles and the amount of space and the amount and the budget and all of that stuff that we have contained within the magazine. And I am trying to shove in quality content as well. I'm going to get to the point where I do pull back on a few articles because I want to be able to do a little more with design, spacing, all of that stuff. I try to fit things in sometimes. But again, that's part of the whole hurdle thing that I have to overcome, because even though I can design, I have my hands in everything else, and trying to do all of that and focus on the design. There are obviously things that are going to, I don't want to say suffer, but I suffer.
Yeah. To be
My
honest,
health suffers.
Yeah, no, and inevitably with the quantity of work, that's just things have to fall by the wayside. You know what I mean? That's just the case of it. And the fact is, you've got such a small team, and you're so like dependently driven towards this thing yourself, man. It's like it's commendable you've managed to make it last this long. Quite honestly.
Thank you. And I've been surprised, and I was honestly scared. Probably after maybe the first or second one, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue to do this. And I just continued to do it because the community got behind it. People like yourself, you wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, thank God, because without that, we don't have anything. I can't sit here and write everything. I can't build everything. I can't make CANNAMAN. I can't do those things. Right. So without the community, we're nothing. This magazine sucks without the community. It doesn't even fucking exist, to be honest with you, because it's the writers, the artists, the photographers. Those are the people that built this magazine. Sure, I've been kind of conducting things, and I made the visual work, from the first one, like these covers and stuff and the whole idea of it. But none of that means a damn thing if you can't actually get it done. And who does the work? It's the writers, the photographers, the artists. I have to curate it all and design it all, but without them, without you, I have no CANNAMAN. I have no articles. And sure, I can write a couple here and there, but Jesus Christ, that wouldn't last very long, dude. I can promise you that. So, yeah, it's commendable that I've gotten it done and kept it going as long as I have. But by no means am I doing this by myself. And without you and everyone else that has been connected to this thing, it doesn't exist.
Really appreciate that. And interestingly, when you said about the photography thing, I think it's Carrie, I think, her photography, amazing, man. Like some of the photos that she puts up is fucking cool as anything.
Hell yeah, I appreciate that. Some of those are mine, some of those are not.
Right.
Some of those are AI driven. And that's another thing, if we have a few minutes, I would love to touch on the AI thing. I think it's something that's important and needs to be understood, that AI is just a tool. If you're someone who is creative in nature, what you do is you find tools to help you do that, right? For instance, I can pick up an acoustic guitar and it's fine, but as soon as I can plug that thing into a few different pedals, I can make that thing do some cool shit, And it's the same thing with AI. If you're a creative and you're already building things, you understand sort of what it takes to make something, what it takes to make something with good detail or with great detail. It's just a tool. And I know that some people really hate the idea that we have now the ability to allow machines to do creative things. But I think that was always inevitable. like we're building them, right? They are a representation of ourselves. We're not making machines as a machine. We're making machines as humans. So of course they're going to be fucking creative eventually, right? Of course they're going to be out here painting. They're going to be building works. They're going to be writing. They're going to be making music. Fuck, man. How many different tools did I use to create my music to begin with? A keyboard is a fucking robot. You know what I mean? So, and with that robot, I can recreate drum sounds and guitar sounds and all of that stuff. So if people want to bitch, moan, and complain about AI stuff, you might want to start back to when Jimi Hendrix first plugged in his fucking guitar, because, you know, that's, and probably way before that as well, right? But, you know, it's something that we love to use. I love to use here at the magazine. It enhances what we already do. We have real photography. We have real artists. We have drawings. We've had all of that in this magazine. We have you who does illustrations. We have real artists here using tools to help us make our art. And AI is just one of those things, and understanding that it's here to help and not hinder is an important thing, and that we use it here at the magazine freely as much as we can, not on the written side, always make that distinction, but on enhancing our artwork. For instance, this past Friday, when I dropped a cover for our sponsor, Quick Liquids. So every Friday before we release a new magazine, a new edition, I do a specific sponsor cover, meaning I build that cover in relation to our sponsor. And this time Rebecca used AI to generate the original piece of the astronaut. And from there, I took it and overlaid my pieces of cannabis and some other things, right? And that's what AI is here to allow us to do, is to just to have another tool to create some really dope shit. The written word is a little different. I feel a little different about that, because I have seen some of the AI works, and I haven't been impressed. And I've also seen some plagiarism. So that's something that has to be taken into account. And I know that there's some people that have been working on apps that you can actually run, like a written work through, and the app will immediately tell you whether or not it's AI generated or human generated, which I think is very interesting. That's the one thing we do need to be careful with, is the writing part of this, and that we're not, I guess, overusing it to the point where we lose the ability to communicate. I think being able to communicate in our very humanistic ways is important, because that's how we can usually best connect with each other. I'll be amazed the day that I read something from a chatbot that overwhelms me to tears. I could be totally wrong, and I hope that becomes a thing. It's great. But I also want people to be able to put in the work. We want people to be able to earn things and understand communication, and having emotional intelligence is important and comes along with growing old. And emotional intelligence is connected to overall intelligence, and understanding the written word, and understanding, just basic concepts of communication. So I don't know necessarily if AI will take away those abilities or enhance those abilities. I'm hoping that it does. But as of right now, we definitely look out for that kind of thing at the magazine, because I don't know, and I'm no expert on how it should and could be used. So we tend to look out for it from anybody. And if we see that things have been plagiarized, we go back and we say, look, this isn't right. This doesn't look right. Doesn't sound right. Doesn't feel right. And we have sent work back to people before.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you added that in. I mean, let's say I'll not comment on AI because I'm not a big fan, quite honestly. Just for sometimes when I'm looking at it, interestingly, when you talked about your cover was cool as fuck. I wasn't aware that was AI generated, but sometimes AI art feels exactly. So sometimes it feels soulless, and I think it's maybe the biased element where I'm just drawn. So inevitably, I'm going to have some form of thing like that. But no, I'm glad you threw that in because that's very contemporary.
Yeah, and I look, I'm with you on a lot of AI art can be sort of soulless. I think that's kind of what you said or what you were getting at. It doesn't feel right. It feels almost too glossy or something about it that just doesn't feel tangible.
Yeah.
There's also an appeal to that as well, though. There's an appeal to the dreamy side of things at times, right? There really is. And so I'm flexible in being able to use it because a lot of the times when I am using it, it's not that soulless thing that I was like, let's just do this. There's much more going into it than putting in a set of words. There are a lot of, and almost nothing I have ever made or generated in AI has never been untouched by me. Take those works and redo them some way, right? There's always something personal that I put in there that makes it feel just like you said. You had no idea that was the original portion of it was generated by AI.
Yeah.
That's because yes, but no. You know what I mean? So there's multiple layers of things going on that I have added on top of all of that to make it, yeah, sure, AI, but not really. It's a combination of exactly what it should be, which is a tool in which the human is utilizing to better the work, period. Just like anything else. But I'm with you. I mean, I totally understand people's hesitation when it comes to AI stuff and that it's kind of a cheat sheet sort of thing. But if you're not open to it, you're going to be run over by it eventually in some form. So I'm more willing to work with it than I am to have it control me.
It also makes me think how many pieces of technology came under the same radar. Like how many new pieces of technology has arrived when people have been like, this is fucking brutal, it's taken away this, this, and this, but then it's just became ingrained in the culture, so that's going to be the same thing, most likely.
That's exactly what's going to happen. Just like anything else, there are all kinds of examples of that. And I read something the other day, and of course I can't recall all the examples this person spewed out, but I was like, damn, that's so true. All of these things are just way that people bitched, moaned, and complained. Like when computers came along, oh my god, the written word is gone and people are going to stop reading, and that's one of the things that that people were scared that the written word would be gone when computers came about. Well, hello, we write more than ever. All of us fucking write. We have to. It's a part of our day. It's called email. So it's just again it's just understanding the tool that we have, using it properly. And properly is a wide ranging word. It doesn't sit in anyone's possession. We all have proper use of everything. So it's best utilizing it the way that you can. And if you don't want to utilize it, that's cool too. But we don't bag on people that do. I don't. And I encourage everyone to use every tool that is available to them to make them the best version of themselves, including their art.
No, quite right. Well, like I say, Dustin, this has been fucking dynamite, man. I'm going to hit shoot, but thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This has been epic.
Hell yeah, man. I definitely appreciate it. I always love talking to you, dude. We always have these dope ass conversations.
Yeah, similar mentality, man. Honestly, well, let's say, Dustin, keep fucking cracking on with this shit, man, because Fat Nugs is something else, man. Honestly, one of the things I was interviewing the individual all day, it's still to be fucking uploaded. It was like a 3-hour fucking thing, so it's taking days to interview this thing, man. But it's good quality, man. Dr. Gary Yates, really, he's another Scottish guy. His knowledge on molecular biology. But what I was saying to him was, we are like in its infancy, man. Globally and regionally, we're in its infancy. So everybody that's like, because I have that regularly, the podcast. I've got a guy down in London. He's the same. Where you have moments of like, what the fuck's the point in this? What's the point? I'm skint. This is fucking shit. But the reality is, you're at the beginning. Just hold on, man, and you have no idea where it can be. So yeah, man, keep working hard, Dustin, and let's say it's fucking dynamite, man.
I appreciate it, dude. I'm going to hold on as long as I can. Hopefully this thing continues to drag me, and I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm okay with some bumps and bruises and scars along the way. And I just want to see this thing, I think, in its rightful place. And again, being able to uplift voices in this industry in the right way is such a cool thing to be a part of. That's all I'm trying to do here. And, people knowing that is what's really causing this thing to grow. It's not, I'm not special in any way, dude. I'm just here creating stuff and helping bring together some really cool people and artists and photographers and writers and in a way that people can connect with. And I think it's really an opportunity for us to do the right thing in this industry, in the right way. And so hopefully I can continue to fucking do this for a long time to come, dude. That's what I'm hoping to be able to do. And hopefully I'll have you here with me, man.
I look forward to it, man. Well, let's say, Dustin, have a fucking, I don't know what time, what is it, 3:30 over you where you are or something?
3:30, yeah, almost 3:30.
Thing is, I'll tell you the truth, man, I was working today and I finished at fucking 6:45 and I got in the door 5 minutes before this interview. I had to take my coat off and I'm sitting in my fucking work trousers on right now, man.
I'm sorry, dude. I kept you like an extra 30 minutes.
Not
dude.
at all.
So
This is me that planned this because I've got another interview on Friday and I had an interview on Saturday there, and I'd said that to the boy's mum where I was just like, I'm running myself into the ground, but I was like, this is supposed to be this way. This is supposed to be this way. That everybody, you see other stories. You got Jeff Bezos with fucking Amazon spray painted on the back wall on his image, and you've got numerous stories of people who are fucking skint, but they just kept chipping at the tree and eventually it fell down. So. Yeah, man, I'm chipping at the tree with these podcasts, man.
I love it, dude. I fucking love it, man. Keep doing your thing, and I know every time I see a CANNAMAN thing, I share the share out. I share the shit out of it as much as I can. I love what you've been doing. I know how hard you work to do that. I know the amount of work it takes to just do one of those skins.
Yeah,
dude, it's a big deal. So I really appreciate everything that you do, brother, and you do it well. So thank you for being, not only here with me, but in the industry doing what you're doing and helping uplift the plan. I think it's important to do it in the way that you do it. Look, comedy connects with all of us.
Yeah.
Humor is something that runs through every single one of us. We grow up as babies laughing first, right? So being able to have someone
that's beautiful, man. That's brilliant. I love that. That's brilliant.
Well, I mean, but seriously though, that's what we do, and as we grow, we smile less and we laugh less. So, dude, having something like CANNAMAN that we get to share with the world is fucking important, man. So I definitely appreciate you doing what you've been doing.
I appreciate that statement. And the thing is, Dustin, like this year, what's cool about it is, let's say we'll hit a shoot, but I'm working on a movie right now, man. The movie is looking fucking epic. You should see this thing, man.
Yes,
you should see this thing. And the thing is, what's cool about it is there's a film, there's a festival essentially in Scotland. It's going to be Fringe Festival. I'm going to premiere it there. There's one down south and down in England. And my intention, most likely, because that's what I mean, I'm fucking skint. So my intention is to try and make it so that I can get the doors. Because there's also a cinema nearby. I'm going to essentially buy out the cinema so I can, through the tickets, I'm going to have to essentially sell the tickets, use the money from the tickets to then buy at the cinema so people can fucking show up. Man, it's insane the amount of work.
That's fucking sick, dude. That's gonna be so dope, man.
I appreciate that, man.
If there's anything I can do to help, obviously, you know where I am.
Yeah, man. I'll be honest, that's why I looked over your music, because I was looking from that. So when I was listening over your music, I was looking over it with the eye of like, where can I fit this in? And that's so I had numerous people. I'll be honest, it was so funny when I put the thing online and everybody was like, I've got a cartoon voice. I've got a cartoon voice. I'm like,
oh yeah.
Everybody is a cartoon voice now. That's what I was like. But it was cool, and the response. So yeah, man, it's really, I appreciate you saying that, Dustin. And let's say the movies, it is going to be one of those cult class. I'm a big believer in you speak your future, and this is going to be in 20 years' time, people will still be talking about this. It'll be like Cheech and Chong, but the animation, like when the story hits and what the story's. It's all about. I don't know if you've like researched like the philosopher's journey. All of us are on a philosopher's journey, and the whole story is laced to do with that. There's a baddie in it, which is crazy close. Like when you hear that, I'm not going to say it because I'll ruin it for you, but when you hear the name of the baddie, immediately be like, honestly, this is going to be good. So, but the thing is, I've got an insane amount of work involved, because
I bet.
Oh man, it's fucking almost nauseating. Dude. It's almost nauseating. But there's a lot of things I've sacrificed that to make these things happen, man. And yeah, man, it's just one of those things.
Well, look, seriously, if we can help push at all, let me know. Especially as you get closer and closer, we can do extra things in the magazine to push, right? We can do extra things to add to the newsletter to push. Look, the newsletter, just the internal newsletter we have at this point. Hi, buddy. Come on. Just the newsletter, the internal newsletter that we have at this point is going out to about 7,000 people every 2 weeks.
Right.
So getting the CANNAMAN message out there in whatever way to send them to wherever will be pretty simple. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, do so you can see.
I've subscribed, so I've seen the comic that you put in with the Batman thing or something. I've seen that one.
Yeah, and these are random. What we're doing is just we create these just randomly, and we have them in a folder, and anybody can go in there and just add to it.
Right.
So we wanted to do something original in every single one of these newsletters so that people have a reason to fucking follow it, right? That we're giving some extra value. I would love to have, if you want me to, dude, I can put CANNAMAN stuff in there. I love it. It's up to you. But absolutely, as we get closer or when you want to start to push, dude, we can add whatever you want in that motherfucker.
Really appreciate that, Dustin. Like I say, there is a part of me, I'll be honest, man, like I'm crazy introverted as a person, and it's bizarre considering that, like, I'm sure you're aware of that kind of personality, you know. So there's a part of me that feels relative caution towards anybody essentially touching anything, as you can imagine, and that's what it's like. So I mean, I'll probably put the brakes on that now. But when it comes closer to the movie thing, like, my main thing is about you watching it personally, like you watching it. That's my thing, is like you seeing the fucking thing. Because once you'll fucking love this shit, man. Wait till you see it. It's fucking honestly. Because I'm only 15 minutes in. My son, like, I was saying it to him, I was saying it to the boy's mum as well. Like, they were in the house the other day, and I was talking to him about it, and I was like, "You want to see it?" And both of them were like, "No, don't show us it. Wait till the end.
You want to see the whole thing."
Yeah, they're like, "Wait till the end. You didn't look at a painting halfway through, that kind of shit." And I was like, you know, and I was like, honestly, this is so that's my whole thing. Like, I have. Like, it sounds so silly, and I'm sure some of the subscribers and that can let us. I'll delete this fucking shout out, Dustin, after the conversation, right? But most of the subscribers will be aware. Like, I've lost my shit in the past couple of years, man. I'm telling you, some of the instances in the street, fucking hell, man, you've no idea. But it's been. But the way I see it is, like, as long as I'm building it, it's all worth it. It's all happening. It's all fucking active. So the movie is going to be a real precipice. I'm looking
forward to that, dude.
I really appreciate that, Dustin, because I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it being done. Fucking hell.
I bet. Dude, that'll be a huge accomplishment, man. Seriously, that'll be fucking huge. I'm looking forward to that. And I'll push whatever you want, whenever you want. Just let me know.
I really appreciate it, Dustin. Well, let's say I'll go to the new man, and let's say I'm looking forward to the magazine on Friday.
Hell yeah, brother. Talk to you soon, Connor.
Speak to you soon, Dustin. Thanks to Dustin for giving me his time, and thanks to you for sticking around until the end of the video. I sincerely hope you enjoyed the content. I'll see you next time.